It is 7:15. We will call for order the Community and Business Relations Committee. All members are present. We have one agenda item today, to consider the 2025 Historic Preservation Initiative. I will let staff take it away.
Well, I see that Kathy Keene, who's currently the president of the Historical Society, is on the line. So Kathy, thanks for joining us tonight. We had a meeting with Kathy Keene as well as Karin de Hartog, who is also on the Shorewood Historical Society, has been there for several years. Bart Griepentrog and myself to talk through the feedback that we obtained from the university survey that occurred in 2024, which is what we were scheduled for, and then take that feedback to talk about next steps. And in short, there's a number of different methods or alternatives we could consider, but the feedback that we're hearing is that we really need to do a deep dive on each one. So the goal here would be for us to put in work in Q4 of this year to develop one-page summaries of each method, and then have individual education sessions on some of the methods we could explore for historic preservation in Q1 of 2025.
Okay.
And then the goal here is to create a timeline of our historical efforts of looking at historic preservation, so that as board members change and as members change in the Shorewood Historical Society and staff change, we have a repository not only with educational tools and summaries for each method we've discussed, but it also puts the policymakers in a position of perhaps trying and evaluating something once, and then depending on how that goes, their availability to go back to the repository of methods and then pick up and get educated on that at any point in time. There's technical information with each method. And so Bart and I would be involved in terms of evaluating it in perspective to village resources, feasibility from what we know and how we interact with regulations of the ordinances, and then our process through committees.
I think that we have any community, any area for community members to speak. Is that something we can open up?
Oh, and for tonight?
Yeah.
Sure, it's up to you.
Yeah, why don't we open it up? I'll just let them speak first, and then we'll have the committee speak. Let's open it up for any community members that want to talk about the process or participate in the finding of fact with Bart and Rebecca. Anyone have anything they want to add?
If there's a member of the public who'd like to speak, if you'd want to unmute yourself now. Kathy?
I'm just here to see if there's any other insights that people have over what we have already come up with. We're certainly interested in making this efficient and informing as best we can all the different technical issues, so that we have all the ammunition we need and information so we can make a good plan going forward. I'm here just to hear if there's any other thoughts people have.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard online? Okay, any questions or comments from the committee members? Trustee Stokbrand?
I'm just wondering how much you can rely on or lean on the work that UW did. I mean, you won't have to reinvent the wheel. There was a lot of information. I'm just wondering, in terms of staff time, do you see that as being, all these preparing for 6 meetings, content? Obviously, the Historical Society will help you. You can lean on the UW University. Do you see yourself having to do a lot of research on this? Or is it too?
So my understanding is the Historical Society will take the lead on that research, and we as staff, as Becky mentioned, will be kind of the resource of implementation. And so if Kathy had a better response to that, but My understanding of how we as a team would use the university project would be to see what questions people are asking, making sure that the documents that we prepare kind of answers those things. And so we discussed preparing, as Becky mentioned, the materials and like, this is what historic designation for a property looks like. This is what historic designation for a district looks like. This is what happens if we do a local program. So we're hoping that we can use the comments that we've learned in that effort and previous efforts to make sure that we can see all the questions. So when we prepare these documents, we can, cross-reference and say, has this been answered? Has this been answered, et cetera? So,
And so you could propose what changes, would the goal be to come up with code language change by the end of this, or would that be an April to June piece? Depending on, so it would have to come to the village board to decide what to do now that we've done the education piece, right?
yeah, so my understanding is this is the education piece, after which we would probably reconvene to say, what did we learn and which path would decision makers like to explore?
So would there be any group between the last March meeting? I guess I'm wondering, who facilitates the next step with the village board? Staff? Or would it be collaborative with the,
Yeah, can we walk through like the next few steps? I mean, I know we have some dates, but what does it look like?
Mhm.
Just so we can better understand. I mean, I think it's fantastic that Preservation Committee is taking a lead in a lot of this and hopefully able to do a ton of the research. So it's off of your plates, but what does it look like? Just so we have appropriate expectations.
Mhm. Well, we have not done the review on each of the methods, but the goal is to have a one-page sheet and summary of each one and how it is impacted or not by the village's code. And at the end of the process, be able to provide through that information documentations to policymakers to better inform you regarding moving forward with whatever method you would like to explore.
So is that a next year thing or?
Yes.
So that's the Q1 of 25.
March of 2025?
Correct. Following the conclusion of the educational series.
Then it would probably be this committee that would be tasked with making a recommendation to the board.
I would imagine
Possibly.
when we get there,
Yeah.
unless it's moved to a different committee, but
Mhm.
if it's a work product from Q4 of 24 and we're taking a look at it in Q1 of 25, then
Mhm.
yeah, I would imagine it would stay with us. And then
Another reason why we recognize that you guys may all be here, but your structures and who's on the group may change. So that's what makes the repository for saving all that information in the one-page summaries critical. So that if there is movement between other group, the whole board has an opportunity to take a look at what that information is so that we can move forward together as a group.
So it'd be a tab on the website, a tab on the village website, historic preservation. Click here for session 1, session 2, materials. Here's the link to the,
Very similar to the CDA spotlight on housing, where it's a one-page on the website with slides, presentation link, one-page summary.
so what's the best way for us, for committee members to stay engaged between now and Q4? Knowing
Well,
that it's
that's
not,
internal, we'll be doing the work internal,
Okay.
and then I would say participating or watching the recordings and the information as it comes out. And then if we realize that we need some additional insight or direction from you, we'll come back to you. Again, this is an outline, one of the things that both Karen and Kathy were keen to note is that this is what the brainstorm has been so far. If some of these individual sessions and the topics change, we reserve the right to do that based upon what we learn through the investigation process and development of the information.
okay,
A question? Is there someone, I can't quite see who all sitting at the table, but if there's some people sitting at the table who have questions or want to get more insight at the beginning of this process, I think we'd like to hear it now so that we can get to the quick of whatever questions might have been arising already from the survey and from general conversation in the village. That I think would help us plan what we know. We're going to try to work with outside people again to gather more information, but we want to move past just gathering information to getting it written out so people can really start to see what all the options are. Any
Anything-
comment?
Yeah, anything from committee?
I guess when I was going through some of the information from the university, I just found examples really helpful. Not hypotheticals, like if you can find a community that has this and look at give me a slide of the house, give me a slide, that says, here's what happened to this family that wanted to buy this house or that did buy this house, and then they wanted to remodel and they took out the tile fountain or whatever. That to me would be meaningful. Because it really makes it more understandable instead of hypothetical. And I don't know how hard that would be to do, though. I don't know, I was hoping maybe university had some examples, because it just, for some reason, it seems complicated. I feel like I'm making it more complicated in my head than it is. And I just think a real example, a real life example could be helpful if it's easy to find.
Well, that's the kind of feedback we need to hear again. I heard that comment made when we first were talking about what will a survey end up showing, and a survey couldn't answer that, but certainly there are communities where we have historic districts. This is what the family got in aid because they applied and got these grants and did their plumbing or did their electrical. And there are other places where, that kind of concrete thing can be, there are examples that do that. So thanks for that piece of information. And we want to have that be very practical. It won't work for every family in every community, but we can show examples of where it has and where it isn't. Yeah. Thank you.
And this includes commercial too, right?
Yeah. We can have
So-
both sides.
I guess my other feedback would be, did I see this will all be virtual? All these sessions? I guess that's a little disappointing to me. I think after COVID, everybody likes community, especially. I went to the session you hosted in the Village Center. It was very well attended. But next January, I'm probably going to be really glad that it's online. So I understand.
That was actually one of the things we took into consideration, because weather does play a factor in it, but more importantly, we wanted to make sure that we were recording with good sound, so that as people went back to watch it, that they had that information.
It's possible that I appreciate the hands-on and face-to-face meetings too. We might think as we get further along, if we have some material that could be presented virtually, but another session that could be for those people who want to come to a workshop, we could think about that. January and February, we did think it would be better to have people at home, but that doesn't mean we can't try it when we get further along and we see what material we have to offer another option.
Okay. Anything nothing there, Jim? I feel updated, so, and we're short on time. We have Jim are you still the new chair? Yeah.
Mhm.
Jim's chairing the village board in like a minute and a half, so, if there's nothing else,
Motion.
we do need a motion.
Yeah,
right?
to recommend.
I would be more than happy to entertain a motion or make it, if you guys don't have it in front of you. Go ahead.
I move to recommend the Historic Preservation Initiative for 2025 to the village board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to ask, so this says for 2025, but it only goes to June, so it is what it is, right? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen after June. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're saying it's for the year.
Correct.
So, okay, never mind.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
the motion and a second to adjourn. We'll adjourn at 7:29.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.